Most burglars hope that the homeowner is not home at the time of the act. But this gruesome man actually hopes that you are home when he unexpectedly pays a visit. It is not often that a serial killer holds an entire state in his grip. But that is exactly what happened in the 1980s in California, United States. Today, we delve into the life and horrifying crimes of one of the most notorious serial killers of all time. Richard Ramirez. Who is this man? In this video, we will tell you everything about this infamous individual. But before I do that, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any videos. Richard Ramirez was born on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, a city in Texas. His parents, Julian and Mercedes Ramirez, had a total of 5 children, with Richard being the youngest. He had 3 older brothers and a sister. Richard's mother described him as a very cheerful child who loved singing and dancing and appeared to be healthy. When Richard was 2 years old, he suffered severe head injuries from a fall, which resulted in a period of oxygen deprivation. It is possible that he may have incurred brain damage during this incident, which could have contributed to his future gruesome actions. However, this has never been proven. His father was a strict man. He was violent and regularly beat his children. Richard also had an older cousin who he looked up to in his youth. This older cousin was at least as gruesome as Richard would become in the future. He took young girls into the jungle to abuse and kill them. He took before and after pictures of his victims and showed these pictures to Richard when he was only 11 years old. A year later, this man shot his wife in front of the then 12-year-old Richard. After this event, Richard withdrew and began experimenting with various drugs, such as LSD. These drugs fueled his gruesome fantasies of abusing and murdering women. At the age of 22, he moved to California, where he settled permanently and became fascinated with Satanism, a belief system that gained popularity in the 1980s. Between early 1984 and late 1985, he was responsible for dozens of rapes. His victims included not only children but also adults and the elderly. Age and gender were not a factor for Richard. He was also responsible for various acts of assault and murder. Richard Ramirez can be described as a true psychopath. Between June 1984 and August 1985, Richard Ramirez murdered at least 13 people in a series of satanic rituals. His first victim was a 9-year-old Chinese girl. Mei Liang's body was found on April 10, 1984, hanging from a pipe in the basement of a hotel in San Francisco. She had been severely mutilated. The police were unable to find the perpetrator at the time, but 25 years later, in 2009, the case was finally solved through DNA evidence. Nearly a year later, a couple became victims of the Night Stalker. Vincent Charles and Maxine Lavinia Zazera were attacked on March 27, 1985. The Night Stalker broke into their home and shot Vincent while he slept, awakening Maxine. Richard tied up Maxine and demanded that she reveal the location of their jewelry, but Maxine managed to free herself and retrieved a gun from under the bed. Unfortunately, the gun was not loaded, which proved fatal for her. Maxine's defiance angered the Night Stalker, who proceeded to stab her multiple times with a knife and then gouged out her eyes, taking them with him in a jewelry box. Another murder took place on July 5, 1985, this time in the home of 16-year-old Whitney Bennett. He assaulted his victim with a car jack and searched for a knife to kill her. Unable to find a knife, he discovered a telephone cord and attempted to strangle her with it. When sparks flew, he fled, believing it to be a sign from Jesus Christ. The victim survived the attack but required 478 stitches to recover. Richard had many more victims in the 1980s. However, it was difficult for the police to catch him. Richard Ramirez did not kill all of his victims, which allowed the police to quickly obtain a composite sketch. One of his victims had looked him straight in the eyes and could provide the police with information about his appearance. Based on this composite sketch, the victims who had survived could confirm that it was the same murderer. The murders committed by this psychopath quickly garnered significant media attention. This was not only due to the fear he instilled but also because of the composite sketch that had been created. With his actions, he held the entire country in his grip. Richard had a creepy appearance, with rotting teeth resulting from his extensive drug use. He also had hollow eye sockets, bulging eyes, and dark hair. The Night Stalker made many mistakes. However, on August 24, 1985, he made a major blunder. That night, he attempted to break into the home of the Romero family. James Romero, who was 13 years old at the time, heard his footsteps and quickly woke up his parents. Richard fled the scene in a stolen car, an orange Toyota. This information reached the police, who found the abandoned car. Richard had attempted to wipe away his fingerprints, but he was unsuccessful. The fingerprints were immediately examined and resulted in a match. The police already had a mugshot of him because he had been previously arrested for car theft. This photo was swiftly disseminated in the media, and it was seen everywhere. Richard himself was not aware of this until he suddenly began to be recognized by everyone on the streets. Richard panicked and tried to flee, but he was recognized at every street corner. Richard Ramirez was eventually arrested 1 week after his last murder. During his trial, he shocked the public once again by drawing the sign of the devil on his hand and grinning as he showed it to the attending press. The media eagerly exploited this, and the photo can be found all over the internet. Richard worshipped the devil. He claimed to be working for Satan and securing a place in hell through his murders. What is also remarkable is that, like many other famous murderers, he had many fans. Hordes of young adult women flocked to the serial killer. In 1996, he even married one of his fans while in prison. Ultimately, this marriage ended. But that didn't matter to Richard because between his arrest and eventual conviction, the Night Stalker reportedly had 15 different girlfriends. In the end, Richard was found guilty of all charges: 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 rapes, and 14 burglaries. Therefore, on November 7, 1989, he was sentenced to death. However, this sentence was never carried out. He repeatedly appealed his sentence, and those proceedings lasted so long that he would have to enter the gas chamber at the earliest when he was 70 years old. Richard Ramirez did not reach that age as he died at 53 years old from complications of cancer. Which other serial killers do you know? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and click on the bell so you don't miss any videos.